Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tattadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Yata sarvani bhutani pratibhanti sthitani cha yatraivo pashamam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. So I'm having significant allergies today. Please forgive my growly voice. All right, Mark, where are we?
We're in chapter 13, page 135, number 2426.
I can't remember what story we're on. Can someone remind us?
Wasn't it Bali?
Oh, yes, the story of Bali, the king of the demons. So, Puneet, will you help us out? What page number again, Mark?
It's 135, the story of Prahlada.
Verse 21, 22.
Is that correct? 21, 22?
24, 26.
24, 26. We'll get it. Got enough light?
Yeah. Nirvikalpa chidabhasa esha atmasmi sarvagaha maeva chetane neme sarve ghata patadayaha suryanta avabhasante dipenottama tejasa mayai vaita sphurantiha vichitrendriya vrittayaha tejasanta prakashena yata gyenkana pankayaha. I am this all-pervading self, the light of undifferentiated consciousness. It is only on account of me, the conscious being, the light, the excellent luster, that all these things, from pots, garments, and the like, to the sun, shine forth or become manifest. This is a symbolic way of referring to all things in the visible universe. It is only on account of me that these varied functions of the senses spring forth here, just as series of sparks of fire issue forth by the inner light and heat of fire.
Yes. So what he's talking about here is what we call Brahman contact. So we have Nirguna Brahman, Brahman without qualities, Saguna Brahman, Brahman with qualities. Sometimes we'll say Purusha, spirit, Prakriti, nature, the self, not self, which is really the self too. And Gita uses this wonderful term, asparsha yoga. Asparsha means untouched. Yoga means touch. So Swamiji used to call it the touch of the untouched. So the self is the illuminating principle of everything. Nothing can be known anywhere without the light of consciousness, gross or subtle. We contact the phenomenal world through the five senses, but I illumine them. We contact the world of feelings and thoughts, but I illumine them. Yet, even though they cannot exist, they cannot move, they have no life without the touch of consciousness. Yet, I am never touched by them. Now, what you and I need to do is, as a practice, as we go through our day, as frequently as you can remember to do it, stop, introvert your attention, notice the knower, and see if anything that has happened during the day, an upset, a good experience, has ever altered or touched you. See whether or not you remain. Wonderful term that we get in this text. Chid Akasha, the very space of consciousness itself. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Sarva bhavanta rasthaya chetyam ukta chidatmane pratyak chetana rupaya mahyameva namo namaha swayam mevoditam swastham namami sarvasham swayam. Repeated salutations to my own self, who is inherent in all states of being, who is of the nature of pure consciousness, liberated forms things to be cognized, and who is of the form of the inner life principle, the soul or individualized consciousness. I bow to the self who has risen only by himself, who is self-abiding, independent, and is my own self.
So our tradition is we pranam, we bow, we namaskar to parents, to teachers, and great namaskars to the God. But here he's saying the greatest of all reverence is given to myself. Aho aham namo mahyam. Wonderful chant. I who am there all the time, waking, dream, and deep sleep, past, present, and future, over here, over there, all moods, all mind states, all experiences, the eternal factor is myself. And each one of us has to keep checking it out. See whether this changed or altered. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
Tishtanapi hi nasino, gacchanapi na gacchati, chantopi vyavaharastha, kurvanapi na lipyate. Though staying, he is not staying. Though moving, he does not move. Though quiet, he occupies himself with action. And though acting, he is not staying.
Yes. So here he is poetically riffing on that idea we get in Gita, what is actionless in the midst of action, and what is action in the midst of actionlessness. So the self is, again, I love Gita's language, kutusta. Kuta is either an anvil or a mountain. Sta tishpati means to stand, to be established, still. So kutusta means it is absolutely immovable and still. I never moves. It is the upadhis, the equipment, that is always moving. And sitting still is an action of the body. And believe me, temporary. So you were telling the story about Neem Karoli Baba being very still. Well, at some point he moved. So our job is to be able to discriminate between where action, doing, resides, in the upadhis, in the equipment, and I, which never moves, always still. Now, it's one thing to intellectually understand it, but we have to prove it to ourselves. How? Take on the practice, Sakshi Bhava. I'm the witness. And always see that, okay, all physical action, all emotional reactions, all intellectual considerations, they are things I always see. They're ever in front of me, as it were. I never change. Don't believe me. You look. See. Next one.
Esha eva sadan veshya statyo dhyatavya eva cha jara marada sammohat anenorthiya gamyate. This self alone is fit to be sought for, lauded, and also meditated upon. By this, one crosses over the bewilderment of old age and death.
Yes, the devilment of old age and death. Because my fear is I am going to change. I am not enough. I am going to get old and nobody's going to think I'm hot anymore. And eventually I am going to die. But it's an illusion. I was at Deepa's birthday party on Saturday. And typically, Jim, my closest connection is with the 4-year-old Alan. We have about the same kind of emotional development. And, can you remember when you were a youngster? We both liked dinosaurs. What was really cool is he was showing me how he's a bunnysaurus. He was hopping around like a bunny. I said, oh, golly, shall I hop around like a bunny? I restrained myself, but I thought of it. But I'm not a 4-year-old. Outside, I'm a 74-year-old. Something there is. This very cool, simple meditation. Just sit in a chair at home and be very still so nothing hurts. No mirrors. And Don't you feel like you did when you were? Why? Because you are nitya, you are eternal. Self does not age. The body is always changing. Always changing. Next one.
न मे भोगस्थितौ वाञ्छा न मे भोगविवर्जने यत् आयाति तत् आयातु यत् प्रयाति प्रयातु tat. To me, there is no desire for the continuance of enjoyments, nor for the abandonment of enjoyments. Whatever comes, let it come. Whatever departs, let it go.
Now, this is an important point. I was talking with a friend this past weekend, and he had a partner who passed away. It's been 5 years now. And this fellow was just a wonderful yogi and a true Epicurean. He just loved life. And his particular path was to see God in everything. And my friend was telling me that they had next door neighbors who were Hare Krishnas. The Hare Krishnas were saying, oh, don't you want to become a Hare Krishna and realize Krishna so you don't have to come back to this world of sorrow again? So I kind of like it here. So the person who's truly free, has no attachment for this world, willing for anything to go, including the body, but no aversion either. What if you were going to be in the body for the rest of eternity? How would you live your life? It still comes down to yoga with great detachment. Don't take it seriously. It's all going to pass. So the yogi neither is attached to the world, nor does she have aversion to the world. That's why we call it Jivan Mukta, being liberated while alive in this very body. You can be. Any thoughts on this? This is a very subtle point. Many people have the ideal, I want to be realized so that I won't have to come back again and reincarnate. I tell you, at the moment of realization, what you find out is that you never incarnated in the first place. It's kind of like this. Do you incarnate into a dream? Are you in the dream, or is the dream in you? While I'm dreaming, it seems like I'm in the dream, like I'm inside the dream body. But that's not what's true. You never really incarnated yet. So also, when you rediscover your self-nature, what you realize is, oh, I was never really born in the first place. I have a relationless relationship with the equipment, with the bodies. So there's nothing to give up, nothing to grab onto for the person of steady wisdom. There's no more seeking, no more striving, no more struggling. We find peace. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
Manasa manasi chinne Niharankara tangate bhavane kalite bhave swastha thishtami kevalaha. When the mind is destroyed by the mind and has arrived at the state devoid of egotism, and when thought has dropped down or vanished through thought, I remain self-abiding and alone.
So here we talk about, as we have advanced in our practice, Swamiji used to call this our spiritual unfoldment, not achievement. Here we begin to do with these paradoxical practices. So what was the first one again, please?
When the mind is destroyed by the mind.
How do I destroy the mind by the mind? You take up the practice. I cannot think a real thought. None of my thoughts are real. Of course, nobody else's is either. And this stupefies the mind's compulsion to go, yeah, but what about blah, 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 blah. This is really important. No. None of it is real. The next idea.
And has arrived at the state devoid of egotism.
So listen carefully. It's not like the ego is going to get glued on to Brahman. I've achieved, I've advanced, and I get an enlightenment certificate. We quit asking the stupid questions. Don't try to be an enlightened person. Instead, remember you are Brahman and cast off any concern for the bodies. What you used to thunder, shut up and get out. I think they were supposed to leave this out somewhere. Come on, shut up. Get out. Next idea.
When thought has dropped down or vanished through thought.
So by this jnana abhyasa, this practice of knowledge, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the ego. Goham, who am I? I am the witnessing consciousness. This is a kind of thought, but it's a kind of thought that destroys egoistic thought. Now, in the end, the flow of thought is not an impediment to self-realization. Let me see if I can give you an example. Can you see the water glass over here? Are you a water glass? No? Yes? I've moved the water glass. Did you notice the water glass moving? Did that make you a water glass? No. You are nothing knowable, seeable, cognizable, no matter its state. Now, in the beginning, stop the mind, even through force, if need be. Frequently, it's between the inhale and the exhale, or sometimes between the exhale and the inhale. Or when you perceive an object before you cognize what it is. Or if you slow down the mind enough to be able to discern when a thought arises out of silence and goes back into silence. In the space between your thoughts, the pure nature of yourself is initially apprehended. But when thoughting starts up again, you don't disappear. You are now the witness of those thoughts. You haven't gone anywhere, nor have you changed. So these thoughts that help us remove. I like to use the metaphors like when you do laundry. I've got dirty clothes. So before I put the dirty clothes in the washing machine, I get my Tide Pod. How can adding more dirt clean my clothes? Then the rinse cycle, both the dirt and the detergent are rinsed. So this jnana abhyasa, these practices of knowledge, help us remove extroverted, the reactivity, and the ego thoughts. But in the end, even that goes away. Is that the last idea in this verse? Throw in more.
I remain self-abiding and alone.
So alone here doesn't mean I go off and live in a cave. Never go out of the house. It means I alone am. Self in me is the self in all. Next one.
Jaya Sarva Gamatita, Jaya Sarva Gamaspada, Jaya Bhava, Jaya Bhava, Jaya Shanti Parayana. Victory to her who is beyond all scriptures. Victory to her who is the abode of all scriptures. Victory to being or existence. Victory to non-being or non-existence. Victory to her who is absorbed in tranquility.
So Jai to that person who has crossed the ocean of change and realized the self. One way of interpreting it. Another way, victory to the self in all, which actually does all the work. One of the things that helps us kind of let go and relax is when we see actually there's nobody really there as an individual doing the sadhana. We're being done. To me, the greatest worldly metaphor is puberty. Nobody chooses puberty. You've got a healthy body, it happens. Now, you make a lot of choices because of it. But it's the same with our sadhana. Deep within us is this drive toward the infinite. That's where we're all going. There's a famous line attributed to Ram Dass when he was asked, what is the purpose of life? And he answered, to walk one another home. I just love that. That's what we're really. You need some help? Let me take your arm. Oh, I need some help. You take my arm.
You said to walk one another home?
Yes.
Thank you, sorry.
All right, next one.
इति मत्वा समाधौ स निर्विकल्पे चिरं स्थितः. Thus, having reflected, he remained for a long time in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, or the yogic state of absorption in absolute consciousness.
So his mind has given it all up. It's stupefied, awed by the grandeur of the self. Aids in that deep introversion. Now, the scriptures talk about, oh, he was in samadhi for a muhurta, 48 minutes. You don't need, I mean, I think I read in one scripture, samadhi doesn't need to be any longer than 7 seconds to do its job. And anytime, tune the mind up and introvert the attention and notice the self. For those brief moments, the mind is in samadhi. So don't over romanticize. Rather than seeking samadhi, seek to know who you are. If it's your prarabdha to have extended periods of samadhi, that will come. Any thoughts on this? Right, next one.
Section 3. Harina Prabodhana, the awakening by Hari. Evam tasmistu vishrante. Hari evam vyachintayat. When he was thus tranquil, Hari, the god Vishnu, reflected thus.
Going on.
Daityaraje shamam yate shatruhina suradhruvam chamametya gamishyanti mokshakhyam padamuttatam. When the demon king goes to the state of tranquility, the demigods without enemies will surely go to the highest abode called moksha or liberation, having attained to quietude.
So now Vishnu, again, this is all just a literary device. So if the demons settle down, then the demigods aren't going to have anything to do. So they will all go to moksha. Let's see what happens if all that happens. Going on.
Deva bhave phalas syurhi bhuvi yagna tapakriyaha kriya swastho pashantas tu bhulo ko pyasa meshyati. In the absence of the demigods, religious sacrifices and austerities will indeed become fruitless or unproductive. When such rituals are diminished or extinguished, even the earth will come to an end.
So if the devas are all liberated and gone, what about the humans who are doing yajna and puja I'm gonna do a Lakshmi Puja. Sorry, she's out of station. She left. Yeah, but I want to make a lot of money. Sorry. I have a test to do. I'm gonna pray to Ganesh. Oh no, he's no longer here. He's gone. So things are gonna break down. So Vishnu is not keen on that because his job to keep the world in order. Going on.
Asansara prasango tha pasya nasho bhavishyati neha shreyo nupashyami jagatyevam shamam gate. Then there will be the contingency of the absence of worldly life in its or the earth's destruction. When the world is thus extinguished, I do not see in prospect any good here.
Yes. So everything will grind to a halt. Vishnu's job is the preserver. He's falling down on the job. Preservation isn't happening. He doesn't like this. He doesn't see this as a good thing. Remember, our dude Prahlada is the king of the demons. Going on.
Iti sanchitya daityendram pancha janyavarena sa prabodhya tamuvachedam sadho smara nijakritam. Thus having thought, he, the god Vishnu, waking up the demon king with the sound of his divine conch Panchajanya, told him thus, Virtuous one, remember your innate form or character.
So he disturbs the mind of Prahlada, which was in Samadhi. Says, dude, you have a job to do. You are a demon king. Now, this is an idea that carries through Yoga Vasishta over and over again. Self-realization does not mean that we leave our Swadharma. You don't have to wear an orange robe and have a 5-syllable unpronounceable name. You don't have to give up work or relationship or your 401k. For some people, that's their Swadharma. For others of us, it's acquiring, achieving, ambition, saving, investing. No blame. But are you doing it because you think that's what's going to make it better? Or is this just your nature? This is what you do. Remember our gal Karkati? She was the other Rakshasi. She never left her nature. And now Prahlada, he remains as the demon king, and his job is to go whack, beat up the devas. So Vishnu has a job to do himself. So let's see what happens after Prahlada returns from Samadhi. I'm hanging.
Jivan muktena bhavata raja eva hi tishtata shepaniya gato dvekam akalpatam iyam tanuhu. By you, who are liberated while living, and indeed remaining only in your kingdom, this body is fit to be cast up to the end of the world without anxiety.
So live your life. If this body gets destroyed, no problem. If this body sticks around for the rest of eternity, no problem. Do your part in the great play, the great drama. Each one of us plays a role. By Leela. The Christians have a wonderful metaphor. St. Paul says the church is the body of Christ. You know, Christ has gone up into the clouds. So now the whole church, meaning all the people of faith, they are the body of Christ. Now the nose doesn't try to be a thumb, and your knee doesn't try to be a belly button. Each part of a body fulfills its role. So you have a perfect role in God's divine plan. Of course, there's wonderful ramifications of this. You can't be like someone else. I'm sorry, they're taken. Only be you at the level of the equivalent. Now, that means there's no support, no recipe, no rule book of what you should be doing. You have to give up what parents think, what society thinks, trust, and deep intuition. Be the most authentic you. Any thoughts on this? And if you're a great sage, you can do that. Or if you're a demon king. Going on.
Krisho ti dukhi mudhoham iti chanyascha bhavana mitim yasya valupyanti maranam tasya rajate. Open quote. I am weak or insignificant, extremely distressed and perplexed or foolish. To him whose mind these and such other thoughts devour or crush, death appears splendid.
So for the person who's depressed, feels little and weak, they can develop the desire to long for death. And some of us have false renunciation. I think it was Freud who came up with, was it called Thanatos, the death wish, where we long for oblivion. Life sucks so bad. This is the mind state that he's talking about. Sound, will you pull the thing once? Going on.
Yasya naham kritho bhavo buddhi yasya na lipyate yasama sarva bhuteshu jivitam tasya shobhate. His life is splendid, to whom there is no egotistic conception, whose intellect is not tainted, and who is equal towards all beings.
Yes. So, for the person who has given up the sense of agency, God is doing it all. Whose mind is stayed in the self. Who has been able to reconcile these two scriptural statements. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world is illusion. And then Sarvam Kalvidam Dhamma. All this is verily God, it's Brahman. So if you can reconcile those in your meditation, then this is a great place to be. Sport with it, have fun, enjoy. Swamiji was one of the most alive and vital people I've ever met. And he laughed all the time. He thought life was very funny. He thought people were very funny. Full of vigor, full of vitality, with big dreams. And at the end, clunk, did his part. Any thoughts on this? All right, next one.
Asha pasyan nabi buddho. Asha pasha nibuddhonta itishcheshcha chaniyate yo vilo la manovritya maranam tasya rajate. Sure, I think I read this one again. I'm going to read the next verse. Yonta shitalaya buddhya ragadvesha vimuktaya sakshivat pashyatidam hi jivitam tasya shobhate. His life is splendid, who indeed sees this visible universe like a witness with an intellect which is cool within and liberated from passion and hate.
Shitala manasa, a cool mind. Watch the movie. Most of us, we go to the movie theater, we see the movie on the screen. We don't like what's happening in the plot, so we get up there and try to get involved in the movie. Luke says, no, it's just a movie. Watch your own body as a character in the movie. Without this idea, I'll be happy when. It'll be better if. I need to change the world. I have to change me. Now, if it's given us to be kshatriyas, warriors, and what you feel like doing is striving hard to make a difference in the world, knock yourself out. Go for it. You might or might not be successful. But all we get is the work. The fruits belong to Lord Krishna. Any thoughts on this? And you never know what's going to happen after you die. This whole idea of legacy, it's pointless for a yogi. You do your work while you're alive, and you leave the rest to the Lord. Going on.
Akhande tadu tishtasu dadhisha singhasanam upashraya yavat meru dhara yavat chandra kamandalam. Therefore, get up, king of demons, resort to your throne. As long as the mountains as long as the mountain Meru exists, as long as the earth survives, and as long as the spheres of the moon and the sun exist.
So, Prahlada, do your duty. Just like Krishna says to Arjuna, get up and fight. So you get up, live life. How long? How long you're here. And for Prahlada, being a demon king, as long as the earth is around, he's got a job to do. Going on.
Akhanditang guna ladhi tavat raja bhavanadgha ityuktva pundarikascha tatraivantra dhimayayau. Sinless one, so long do you remain a king as to be proud of your everlasting or unbroken virtues. Close quote. Having said thus, the lotus-eyed Vishnu disappeared there itself.
So do your thing and respect and honor what your particular mission is, your vocation. The word vocation comes from the Latin vocare, which means to call. See your work as a calling. I always like to say work should be the highest form of play, and play is the highest form of work. You have a spiritual right to do what you love. And if you're not at that point in your life where you're doing what you love, the antidote is to do your best to love what you're doing and see how things start to move. Now, does that mean we're going to hit all the green lights of life? No. But you will develop the capacity to match calamity with peace, with serenity. And you've got a greater chance of being successful in life if you develop the tools of the yogi. In Gita, Krishna says, this knowledge makes you master of this world and the beyond. What do I mean by that? You learn single pointedness of mind. You can stay at a project. You learn not to be swayed or upset by the likes or dislikes of other people. You've let go of holding on to resentments, and judgments, and jealousies. You can be solution oriented. Your mind is quiet, which makes you intuitive, which makes solutions available to you. You're happy, so you tend to be healthier. There are all sorts of practical benefits to this. Any thoughts on this? All right, next one.
Sri Rama Vacha Katham Prabuddham Bhagavan Prahaladasya Mahatmanaha Pare Pare Dridam Linam Panchajanya Swanaimanaha. Revered one, how was the mind of the high soul or noble Prahalada, which was firmly absorbed in the highest abode, awakened by the sounds of Panchajanya, the divine conch?
So how did the conch bring him out of samadhi? Very good question. Going on.
Vasishta Vacha Drishta Bijopama Bhuyo Janma Kura Vivarjita Hridi Jivan Hridi jiva dvimuktanam shuddha vasati vasana. Vasishta said, in the heart of the liberated while living, there dwells that pure mental impression which resembles the roasted seed and is destitute of the sprout of numerous births.
Yes. So we have three kinds of karma: sanchita, agami, and prarabdha. Sanchita karma, karmas of the past which have yet to fructify. So if 5 lifetimes ago you wanted to be a Russian ballerina, sorry, this is not the life for you to do that. But upon realization, you see, I'm going to make anything better. Let it go. It's roasted. Agami karma, karmas of the future that we set in place this lifetime. Oh, I've been listening to Pavarotti. Oh my God, what a beautiful voice. Oh, my life would have been so much better if I'd had a voice like Pavarotti. Is that going to set up a future life for the woman or man of wisdom? Nope. Isn't going to make anything different. Gone. So all that's left is what we call the prarabdha karma, the karma of this body in this life. Now, it may have been set in motion with its various tasks and things, thinking that's what's going to make me happy. But Shankara says it's like an arrow that's been loosed. You can't bring it back. So our prarabdha will impel the body to get its allotted dose of success and failures and experiences, etc. You know what happens when your prarabdha is over? Who knows? You die. But for the person of steady wisdom, it makes no difference. Whether you're a successful business person or just an okay business person. Whether you have a 3-bedroom house or a 10-bedroom house. The prarabdha will bring those things to you or not. So the desires are roasted. They no longer have the power to bind us. Now, experientially, what do we mean by this? The first power of a vasana is a varana shakti, healing power, meaning the non-apprehension of myself. How do I know that I'm under the throes of that kind of vasana? I think I'm a person. I think I'm my body. This world is serious business. But if you tune up the mind right here, right now, just introvert your attention, notice the knower, that vast space. Now from here, sound, do you like mangoes?
Yes.
Did yourself disappear when you said that? So the desire does not rob you of self-experience. Another time, the desire for a mango might. So for the woman or man of wisdom, the jiva mukta, they may be seen to be having desires. They may be seen to be functioning in the world. They may be reacting. Deep inside, still. So you can never tell the state of anybody else. Only one person of realization can recognize that. And of course, the metaphor here is if you buy mung beans at the store, you can sprout them and get your own mung sprouts. But if you take those mung beans, put them in the frying pan and roast them, they look exactly the same, but they don't sprout. What is the sprouting of the vasana? Ignorance. Ignorance. So they're roasted. They no longer have the power to bind. Now, only you can determine that for yourself, whether or not a particular desire is a preference and you're clear about your self-nature, or you've gotten identified and this is really serious. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Api varsha sahasrante dayavantara vasthatha sati dehe prabudyante utopyu chana na shanaihi. Whenceforth, even at the end of 1,000 years, when the body exists, they wake up slowly, even with that lofty inner state.
So here, those sages who go into nirvikalpa samadhi even for 1,000 years, then the mind is tickled into awareness again by these roasted vasanas. But they do not lose their knowledge, even though they're in what we call sahaja samadhi, that natural state. Never lose knowledge of myself without it. Going on.
Iti Shri Vasishta Sangrahe Prahladopakhyanam Nama Trayodasha Sargaha. Thus ends the 13th chapter titled The Story of Prahlada and the Abridgment of Yoga Vasishta.
All right, I think we'll end here tonight because my voice is starting to get tired. Before we do, are there any questions or comments? This is a whole story that basically is saying the same thing as before enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water. After enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water. Everything is different and nothing is different. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Oh, that's it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jim. Hope you feel better.
Oh, it's just allergies, I think. I'm just stuffy. I'll take my wellness formula. But I don't have COVID. I came up negative.